My name is Earl W Taylor. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist for 25 years. I'm the author of the self-help book, Overcoming Yourself, a journey through achievement toward contentment. Welcome to Shupidstit. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Mr. Brian Boggs, my man.
Already. Hello, world. My name is Brian Boggs. I'm a retired naval officer after 25 years of faithful service. We're about to take you on a journey from a common result to an uncommon result, leading to an unbelievable reality. And we're going to be traveling at the speed of 9.
Yes, sir. Today's subject is expectations in a relationship. But before we dive into that, we have two special guests. Mr. Antoine Jarvis. How you doing today, brother?
I'm amazing. Life is amazing.
Yes, sir.
Life is amazing. I just want to say my name is Antoine Jarvis. Been in the trucking industry the last 7 years. Just decided to be a serial entrepreneur. I like that term. I actually coined it from you. So I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. So I'm speaking that into existence. So I started my own trucking company called ACJT Logistics, and been running with that ever since July of last year.
We also have another special guest, Mr. Raul Randall. How you feeling today, brother?
Man, I'm blessed, man. I'm above ground. What is that? You could be seen and not viewed. We good.
Hey, I love that. Seen and not viewed.
There you go.
I'm Raul Randall. I'm a doctoral candidate at North Central University. Should be graduating here in the next 7-8 months. Been in that program for about 3 years. I'm also a master mason, Prince Hall Mason, 33rd degree Mason, author, 2 different books, Masonry Inside Out and The Ninth Arch. Project manager for Huntington Eagles, and a naval officer, retired naval officer, 23 years of faithful service.
Solid, my man.
Yes, sir. So we have some insight up in the house today.
Absolutely.
We're going to address the subject expectations in relationships. When I think of expectations, I think of disappointments. Higher the expectations, higher the disappointments. If you can't handle high disappointments, you got to have a lower expectations. When I think of relationships, I think of growth. I have a phrase in my book that says, life is about people. People are about relationships. Relationships are about growth. And growth is about love. And love is about life. But today we're talking about relationships, and we're talking about the expectations in those relationships. So, Mr. Boggs.
Yes, sir.
What are you thinking?
Like you said, the bigger the expectation, the bigger the disappointment. And that's a fact. When you have high expectations, that drop is fall when you don't meet it. So expectations in relationships, I think we need to do away with expectations. I think expectations are the problem, because when you expect something, that's you in your mind determining how an external person or thing should operate. You have no control over an external person or thing. So that's the reason why you get disappointed when your dog pees in the house, because you've been training this dog and he pee in the house. Oh man, I got to clean it up. You're disappointed. When your kid performs bad in school, you're disappointed in their performance because you had this expectation that they were going to do better. I think we need to do away with expectations, in my humble opinion.
One sentence before you go to expectation from others. You want to have some expectations for yourself as long as you can manage those disappointments. Expectation for others, that'd be a fair?
That's fair.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Go for it.
That's definitely. And speaking on that, and I think for most people don't even talk about their expectations for themselves. They all, because if you think about people, we always talk about what you should do. I ain't gonna talk about what's wrong with me. I'm saying something wrong with you. Fix you first. You know what I'm saying? So, just my perspective.
You got it.
How about you, sir?
Man, it's just listening to you describe what your understanding expectation is. I'm like, God, dog. Like me personally, I feel that we're always going to have some form of expectations for others. I don't even think it's possible. And that's just my limited pea brain understanding of expectations and how the mind works, that we always are going to have some form of expectations, because I think that we tend to pedestalize people sometimes. You know what I mean? We tend to put them on a platform to where we expect them to do a certain thing or act a certain way. And when they don't live up to that expectation, I think that's when, the damage in our mind, the damage comes. You know what I mean? So my question is, to put it back out there, is it even possible to not have expectations for others?
What do you think?
Well, I think like this. First of all, it's something my mother told me, right? If you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. So you got to start inside out, just like the book we wrote, Masonry Inside Out. We were three Masons writing about something inside. So now we protrude out. It's the same thing. Societal expectations, right? We got social media. Everybody on social media, right? Their expectations of a relationship is what you see on social media, but that's BS, right? So that's kind of, we just have to start what our own internal expectation is, what we expect of ourselves to expect from somebody else. You got to put that on yourself first before you put that on somebody else. That's just my spin on it.
Well, I agree with that.
Well, in answer to your question, yes, it is possible to have minimum expectations from others. Zero expectations will suggest you possibly not human, but minimum, an expectation a month. And maybe that's with your wife. But outside of your household, right. Zero expectation is very possible. But to get to this place, you have to go through pain, which is growth. You start off with high expectations. You get high disappointments. You fumble around. You figure out, man, if I had expected less, you lower your expectations of others. You get less disappointments. And eventually you solve that problem by saying, you know what? I need to stop expecting anything from others. And then I need to start bringing more than others expect. So that's the answer to your question in regards to that. However, we got expectations, such a broad subject matter. How does it apply to your wife? How does it apply to your society? How does it apply to your job? For the average person, they have average expectations, meaning they're not running around here with no expectations, because that's how young people succeed. Your mind is set to set a goal, expect to have it happen, get frustrated, learn and grow. What do you think?
I agree with that. Now, on the relationship piece, like I said, I think we should get rid of all expectation. And I know that's pie in the sky. That's unrealistic, because we're human beings. But I like what you said, from the inside out. If people focus more on their personal expectations of their own behavior, achievement, anything, that if they focus on themselves, you will get what you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are magnetic. You attract what you are. So if you have high expectations for yourself and you conduct yourself in that manner, you will attract people that have high expectations of themselves.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Just my ideas. What about you, sir?
I like the idea of, and remember, if I can't understand it, I can't really use it. You know what I mean? Right. So I like the idea of looking more inward.
Yeah.
That hit home for me. And I appreciate you for sharing that with us. That hit home for me because we do that a lot. We get to looking at everybody else and how everybody else is doing. And now we got a certain type of lenses. Now we feel it's okay to judge everybody else and not even look at, like the scripture says, the speck in one's own eye. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that if we take the time to actually start doing the own shadow work within, that we'll realize a lot of stuff that we're seeing that we're not liking in other people because of those expectations is a lot of stuff that's already in us.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So if we start checking ourselves and start changing those little things, when we look at others, we won't have such a challenge with who they are and how they are based off of the fact that we already did the shadow work to change ourselves. if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm gonna pass you. I just want to say this real quick, because it brings to mind the saying that you always say. You know, we don't see the world as it is; we see it as we are. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, I mean, good point too, because the Bible says, hey, judge not, or you be judged first.
Correct.
Right. So if we're talking biblically, the Bible itself, just that acronym, is basic instructions before leaving earth. If we follow that playbook, right? Because in Proverbs, it says, "Hey, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and finds favor with the Lord." So now that if I'm looking at that, because I've been divorced twice. First time, I had a certain expectation, right? I went into the relationship, eyes wide open, or wide shut.
wide shut.
Right? And then it failed, right? I took part in it. So again, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, finds favor with the Lord. Internal, my thing has always been, because I've been divorced twice, and see what went wrong. And now I love my wife to life now, not to death, to life now.
Right.
I look at it as I came in this relationship with no expectations. But I knew I had to fix me.
Right.
Once I fixed me, and it's a constant evolutionary process. I do that every day. What did I do yesterday I could do better today?
That we all have a consensus that if you have expectations, have them for yourself.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to go through the pain truth of growth to get to this next level where having minimum to no expectation of others. Now, why would you want to do that? What is the benefit of having no expectation of others? We've also established expectations are in our mind. Well, the unbelievable. When you cut your expectations to minimum, you get out of your mind. You get out of your head. In your head is this and that. Outside of your head is the other, the unbelievable. So the reason to have minimum expectations is that you want to experience the unbelievable. And from the unbelievable, you can head places you've never been, have things you never had. You can do things with the third wife you didn't know how to do with the first and the second. And how do I know that? I think I have some experience in that first, second wife thing.
You gotta keep the spirit.
So we've given an incentive to minimize expectation from others. And speaking of wives, that's an area, or should I say relationships of significant others, because everybody don't have a wife. Some people have girlfriends. Some men have husbands. And welcome to the real world. If you don't like it, those relationships still exist. And let's talk about how our expectations within those relationships.
Matter of fact, I would like to ask a question in that for the collective. Do you think that a woman's expectation of how a husband or a man should conduct themselves, do you feel you have a requirement to pattern your behavior based on her expectation?
I personally don't. I just think I personally don't. I don't.
I don't know. I say no. You don't have. I see no reason to lose yourself in trying to find the man she had in her head. That's basically what you're gonna do. And women do it all the time. Women are successful at that. They meet a guy who got some stupid ideals in his head about what she should be.
What do they say about a woman? A woman marries a man like her father. Right, and that's kind of like the model, right? Her dad, but I can't be like her dad because our DNA is different.
And the goal is to be better than her dad.
Yeah, I'm a different man.
You want some unbelievable stuff,
right?
Your dad, I got some stuff your dad don't have to offer. Girlfriend.
Exactly.
Wifey. So the truth is, it just keeps honing in on this fact. Any kind of expectation, even from your husband, is not gonna get fulfilled. Like it or not, now, take as long as you like to figure that out. You're just going to try to get somebody to live in your head. People don't live in your head. They live outside of your head in an unbelievable world. Now, why don't you participate? Get over yourself. Experience the unbelievable. Stop being afraid. Expectation is a friend of fear. Don't tell nobody, because people, the word get out. Expectation is a friend of fear and safety and comfort. And comfort is an enemy of growth.
I ain't gonna lie. You're 100% correct there. Expectation, it's born of uncertainty. Trying to make certainty out of uncertainty.
Scared.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, because I in my time on this planet, you know, I've dealt with some great women, but the one thing I can say that's been pretty consistent amongst them all is they think they know how a man should conduct himself. And I always find that
But
funny.
they have a good reason to do so. Marriage is a byproduct of a holy book. And that holy book has prescriptions in it. In fact, men kind of inspired the first part of it with the obey part. Wives, we expect you to obey your husbands. Women figured out we need to get that out the way. Now that's been changed. That's been changed. Let's get that clear.
Turn that page off.
You will never, you go to a wedding, you hear the word obey, she didn't get the memo. So we are getting, but that's how all these expectations start.
Absolutely.
And rightfully so.
Right.
Thus said the Lord. So the institute of marriage is an awesome opportunity for humans to grow in relationships. The children of God enter the institute of marriage to get to the playground of pleasure. They spend all their time in the classroom of love. 1, 2, 3 marriages, like some of us sitting at this table. They learned some stuff, But so once again, I think these expectations are just as reasonable as the ones you have for your children. We have expectation of children because that sets standards for them. They go through what is, and then eventually they realize, okay, I don't need to have any more of these expectations. Now I can grow up. I've grown. I've experienced some things. So I think it's necessary to have these expectations in the beginning to get started. What do you think?
You know what? I can't say it's necessary to have them in the beginning. Because don't get me wrong, in the beginning, it's a lot of chaos.
Maybe standards and no expectations.
There you go. I would say standards. I would agree with standards. I would agree. I agree with standards.
For people to have them.
Yeah.
The truth is you should get rid of them.
Right.
Wherever you're standing, in the kindergarten, the first grade, your college graduate, a professor, minimize your expectations.
Exactly.
It's hard to go around that,
That's right.
And once again, of others.
Of
the
others.
key is of others. Keep expecting for yourself because you can do twice as much as you think you can and 3 times as much as somebody else you think you can. So have some expectations for yourself.
Absolutely. Not to mention,
but none for others.
the only person you can change and improve is yourself.
And you should.
You have no modicum of control over another person. And in some of the relationships I've witnessed, and this is a third-party account because I'm not in that, I see a lot of individuals, some men, some women, that try to have control over another person. And that to me is the craziest thing to bring into a relationship, is to try to control someone.
What do you think, sir?
That's a challenge. Even to touch on what you were saying, because once you start, when do you stop? Like, how do you gauge when enough is enough?
Pain get unbearable.
But the challenge with that is, over time, if I've been able to bear this pain, now my tolerance is higher. Now I can take
reach your full potential too, by the way, until you expand. There's people, some people don't have maximum human potential. In fact, the average person has average human potential. You can't pour more in that container. That person is chosen to be average. Ain't nothing wrong with average. We need average folks. But those extraordinary people will put the extra in it and they will get extra out of it. So that's when you stop. We've talked about expectations in marriages. What about children?
So, for myself, I say I have expectations, but actually that's lazy language.
Yeah.
It's more I have standards. Because what I tell my kids is, your determination of what you want to be in your adulthood is yours. Just understand that if you say you want to be one thing, there is a curriculum to get to that. So if you don't follow the curriculum, you're not going to get to that. So like I tell my son, he's a long jumper and a triple jumper. And when he performs not at his best, he can sulk sometimes. And then I say, hey son, sulking doesn't do anything positive for you. Because the only thing you can do is improve your performance. Recognize what you did and what you didn't do and take the next step to get to the next level. Wallowing in self-pity on what you didn't accomplish, it's a waste of time and energy and focus. So I am a firm believer of standards for my kids, but I try to limit my use of expectations because I don't like to get disappointed.
Good job.
I just think I got 5 kids. So I can tell you my 2 oldest are 26 and 28. As parents, we don't trust our kids because you said something earlier about extraordinary, right?
Extraordinary.
But in Dave Cottrell's book, Monday Morning Mentor, he said, if you want to be extraordinary, you got to stop being ordinary. We're always ordinary. Our thought process is ordinary on how we look at it, but we don't trust our kids because the Bible tells us, teach a child in the way it should go and then never go astray. We don't trust that process. It's a process. We just don't trust it. I did it with my oldest. I did it with my 2 oldest. My expectation was for them to go to college. At the time, I had a few college classes under my belt, but I didn't have a degree. So I was a hypocrite. And so I'm expecting them to do something, but I didn't trust that they would make the right decision.
Absolutely.
But again, I started back earlier. I said, it's internal. What am I doing?
Right.
Am I a leader? Am I setting the example? I don't have to talk about it. I just be about it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So that's just my spin and my take on just that. Trust is the big thing.
Good point.
And I think trust is really, really important. Because I remember when we were talking some while ago where you were worried about, your son going to do things. And I'll let you speak on it because it's your life.
And I knew you was going with that.
You know I was.
As soon as that was the first thing I started thinking about was my oldest son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And giving him the freedom to roam, and make his own mistakes. And it's challenging, because the trust is like, we want to protect them. We want to make sure, they're good and make sure that they're safe at all times. But that's not realistic, nor is that life.
Right.
Unless you tie them up and lock them up in a room with absolutely nothing, they need the freedom to be able to roam. You know what I mean? Like there is no way to allow them their own personal development, right? Personal development if they don't actually live life and make some mistakes. And I think the crazy part about it is for some people who end up having kids. I think I think our kids also teach us while we're teaching them, because sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, why did they do something as stupid as that? And then I have to remember, well, shoot, I've been them before, but they've never been me.
Right.
So I also have to remember, okay, let me stop, because I'm expecting him to know things, back to that expectation again.
Right.
I'm expecting him to know things that he hasn't been through yet. And I'm holding him to an unrealistic standard that he has no clue of, that he has to live up to. You know what I mean? And I'm loving this podcast today, because at the end of the day, it's setting, I know me personally, it's setting me up to see what I'm doing to my sons can damage them if I keep that up.
Absolutely.
If I keep those expectations up, I can damage and stunt their growth, because it's unrealistic that they're living up to standards that they don't even know that I'm coming up with as I go.
And let me reiterate on that real briefly. Immaturity cannot recognize maturity. Maturity should be able to recognize immaturity.
Should be.
However, the definition of immaturity is 0 to 13, 14, or 15, 21 if you want to extend it longer. Now, ironically, those are the years we can't tolerate the immaturity in our children. Excuse me? You can't tolerate the immaturity in your child. What does that say about you? Perhaps only maturity can recognize immaturity. So the problem may be too young of a parent, too immature of a parent. Now you have children trying to raise children. The immature is trying to mature somebody. How you going to do that? How is the immature going to mature somebody? I have what I call the average parent average child challenge. The average parent, for some reason, want their child to be extra, above average. Let me say it again. The average parent want their child to be above average. Okay, seems like some problems to start with, but let's go further. We know what an above average child looks like. You've been looking at grades and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But what does above average parent look like? Take the challenge. Can you put up with immaturity to the point you don't scream and lose your freaking mind? Can you sit there and watch immaturity walk all in the house and up the stairs and just say, he just keeps smiling? No, you're going to get what? Pissed. You're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. And that's the nature of parenting, right? Because because you need to improve yourself, which is basically the theme of this discussion. Go inside of yourself, expect more from yourself, have a better life for you and the people around you.
That's a fact.
Yeah, but if you listen to what Antoine said earlier, he's like, I don't understand how my son can't see this, and that. You can't teach experience.
Right.
Hello.
You can only live it.
Hello.
You can't teach experience.
You can't teach experience.
You gotta go through that shit.
You gotta go through it.
You gotta go through that pain that you talked about, right?
You can't teach experience.
Because what to say, you do something over and over, the same thing over and over again, expect a different results, you're clinically insane.
That's correct.
You can't teach experience. You gotta just go through it.
Those
are life lessons that you gotta let them, like I had to let my daughter learn, do all this stuff, and now I have an autistic son, and I'm just letting him be. Yeah. But now that I'm letting him be, he's actually doing his thing. Mm-hmm. But with my oldest, it was always me browbeating him, and then they ran. Right. You remember Jay from Japan? Yeah. We had to send him back to the stage, right?
Trying to teach maturity.
You can't teach experience.
Yeah. And I had that problem with my oldest, where I can honestly say I wasn't the best father. I was learning how to be a father, and that caused tension, because I didn't know what I was doing.
And
just lack of a better term.
I'm in a unique parenting situation. Most people don't become grand at the parenting till their kids have kids. Well, I started off grand at the parenting game. 49 first child. I'm a half a century. Now, first of all, I'm talking clocks. Clocks. Where's the battery? Why don't you have a battery in your clock? Seriously? A battery in a what kind? What's a clock, man? What's a clock? And a lot of people don't recognize there's a reason the planet asks or demand everybody to leave. Okay, 100 years, you got to go. We need some new people. Y'all thinking, good old days. Exactly. We need some good new days. So my son has taught me a lot. In fact, probably more than I taught him, because for every generation, and he was born in the information age. Whereas I arrived in the information age. I came from encyclopedias. Everybody my age had a guy knock on their door with 20 books. I was 20 books strong. Man, he can get 20 books and click, bam. Google, I'm 20 books into the game trying to teach this kid. So what you have to do is to recognize what you don't know. And that's what parents, they try to teach what they do know. What about what you don't know? And in my case, I didn't know a lot. And so, but I asked questions. I got better at it, and I'm getting better at it. And you and your children are growing at the same time. If you think they're growing and you're not, they passing you up. They becoming grandchildren, and you'll never be a grandparent because you got to learn from them as they learn from you.
And that's a good point too. I like where, when people have expectation, for your kids, for a significant other, a loved one, husband, wife, or other, if you ask more questions, that will temper your expectation. Because that's the only way you ever learn about another person is by asking questions. Period. Asking questions, it generates conversation. It generates an opportunity for people to tell you about what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Because if you continue to direct information at someone, people are going to say, okay. And they're going to shut down. Because you're trying to tell me how I should feel and how I should think, but you ain't in my head.
But isn't that the definition of a narcissist?
That's a fact.
So that's a classic definition of a narcissist.
So most people are narcissistic.
Pretty much.
Until the evolution takes place.
Right.
Now, here comes the last question. Should you expect God? What should you expect from God herself?
Who wants to tackle that first?
God herself.
God herself. I told you it's gonna be some shit. I told you it's gonna be some Shupidstit up in here. I told you it's gonna be some Shupidstit up in here. What you? This is Shupidstit. But the point well taken. Yeah. Should we? How do we? What are your expectations from God?
Well, I'll take it first.
Oh boy.
My perspective, I feel you should have no expectations. I feel your expectations
now put the word from God in.
From God.
From God. They want to hear that.
Yeah. You shouldn't expect God to provide for you. Because the way I think of it, I was like, God has given you.
He over there. See, his head going.
See, God has given you what you need to get whatever you want. But instead of us looking within to see what I need to do to get what I want, I need God to get this. God, I need you to make this happen for me.
Somebody else to make it happen.
Exactly. You know, and it's crazy how we can put so much faith in an external being and so little faith in our own being. Just my perspective.
All right, brother man.
Well, God gave you free will, first of all.
Right.
I mean, that's so. When Jesus died on the cross, he gave you free will.
Facts.
So yeah, I get you. We put a lot of faith externally, but we never put any faith internally.
Yes. And that's exactly what I want to say.
So again, it's that free will. I mean, it's simply put. You say a whole bunch of things. I can tell you what Paul said in the book of Corinthians. When I was a child, spoke as a child, understood as a child. When I became a man, I put childish things away.
Facts.
He understood his inadequacies because that was Saul before.
Yes.
He understood his inadequacies and he became a man, and then he grew, he evolved.
Exactly.
So, free will.
Facts.
That's my quick 30-second synopsis. It's free will.
Yeah, sir.
Expectations for God.
God herself.
You always got to throw that in there. A little something like this right here. I get it.
And, we already established that's not far-fetched, but we ain't going. This is a different podcast.
So expectations for God.
From God.
To me personally, I'm in agreement along the lines of what you were saying earlier, which is we have enough already internally. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with our kids. Our kids have enough to be whatever they choose to be. The problem is, are we okay with who they choose to be? And I think that's our greatest challenge. Back to the topic of this whole podcast, which is expectations and relationships. And our relationship with God is, it's a challenge because if I'm not the religious type, how often am I talking to this God? If I never seen this God, how often am I talking to this God? So me personally, where I'm at in life, I talk to myself a lot. And I think that's because I came from God, I feel like I'm talking to God. And so because of that, I choose to look within myself for all the inadequacies that I have and try to tweak those. And if I can tweak those into something that I can utilize to get me where I got to go, I think I don't need to worry about what God did, because if God already said, here you go, I'm giving you everything you need to be amazing, great, or mediocre.
Right.
That's all your choice. And nobody on this earth can ever look at you and say, if you chose to be mediocre, you don't reserve the right to be mediocre. So in my mind, I'm like, well, shoot, if I get to choose that, how do I get to the point to where I'm okay with my child choosing to be less than my expectations?
But how much faith do you have?
Allow me
it goes there, right? Everything you said is how much faith do you have?
Facts. It's all about that faith.
Yeah.
Evidence of things hoped for, the subject of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Mm-hmm. How could I believe in something else? It's faith. It's faith.
Or increase your clarity. But we already discussed that's another increase your clarity.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to suggest that Christians depend less on God. We need to give them a scriptural basis. Otherwise, they're struggling. I mean, because if the Bible didn't say it, it didn't exist. It ain't real. So I like to suggest a few scriptures. Thou believest, O vain man. Thou believest in God, thou doest well. Know ye not the devils believe and tremble. Faith without works, dead. In other words, I have seeds on this planet. I have soil on this planet. Plant something. Watch me prosper it. And last but not least, for those people who want to really be stretched beyond what we're talking about today, I would say this. Red print in the Bible, mean Jesus talking. These things I do. If I want to misquote it, that you depend on me to do. But I ain't gonna put that in there. But these things I do that you depend on me to do. These things I do. You shall do also. And greater. So there's your scriptural basis if you want it. Otherwise, you can keep depending and you don't get what you hope and pray for.
Have an expectation.
You can keep expecting.
Thank you.
You can keep expecting. You can keep expecting him to provide you, wishing, hoping, and praying, and not getting off your knees and dropping a seed in some soil.
Facts.
It don't work, you don't eat.
Hey, that is the truth right there.
Ultimately.
Gentlemen, this is about the most agreement we've had in a podcast.
I have to say that, but you know why though? Because see, we're all men with supreme faith in ourselves and understanding how a man should conduct himself. Because when you know how a man should conduct himself, it's no way there can be disagreement. Because we're all men.
And I think in this case, we've all at least figured out. Cut them expectations back from others. Exactly. Maximize them for yourself. Plant the seeds and create the fruit and the life you want.
Absolutely.
Is there any other area of expectation we have not explored?
You know what? Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the workplace. Expectations.
Oh boy. I haven't been in the work. Now, if I talk less, don't mind me. I don't go to work. This is the workplace. But I've been in workplaces since a long time ago. Absolutely. So I can contribute a little bit.
Of course. So I'm gonna ask you, brother, what do you think about expectations in the workplace?
Well, as a project manager, I'm very driven on procedural compliance. So if we have procedures and processes in place, that's what I expect. I take me out of it. When I get out of the car, me is gone. Right. Me stays in the car, but the process or the procedural compliance stuff is what I expect. And then I expect just treat people how you want to be treated. Because when I go in the workplace, we do barbecues every quarter, right? But that's just to sit down and break bread with no expectations.
Right.
But what I do in that is I'm learning everybody at that table. And then every year, December, at least for the last 3 years, I've written out personal Christmas cards. And something that I got from just that table conversation, I wrote in those cards to let them know that I was listening.
Exactly.
So I just put myself in their shoes. I was that guy. I was that person on the other side of the table. So now, hey, let's just follow procedural compliance, but let's just treat each other with respect.
That's a great perspective.
Good guy to work for.
Yeah. Great perspective.
You had to work.
Because like for me, when it comes to expectations in the workplace, I'm on my own now, but it's a lot of people expect to be rewarded for their effort.
For mediocrity, yeah.
I say effort.
Yeah,
most people's effort is mediocre at best.
Right.
Most people.
Whoa, that's talking about the workforce.
Okay, maybe you're right.
I'm talking about the workforce.
I'm learning now.
I tell you what I told my sailors when I was active duty as a retired Navy officer. I told my sailors all the time for 23 years. Give me a quarter cup of gas. Just a quarter cup of give a shit. If you give me a quarter cup of give a shit, we're good. You're going to go far. Just give me some effort. But if you don't give me any effort, I can't reciprocate negative energy.
Right.
A negative and negative is a negative.
No, actually, two negatives add up to a positive.
Well, a negative and a positive depends on the integer. Depends on the integer. The integer is zero, right? So
I knew that was coming.
it depends. But we talking two negatives.
Brian is back.
Yeah. So yeah, good rebuttal, but it depends on the integer.
But you know, I told you.
No, I've been. We do this. But again, it's give me a quarter cup of gas, right, and then we're good. We let it ride out. But if you don't give me nothing, I'm not gonna give you anything. I'm not gonna reciprocate your negative energy.
I feel you.
I mean, that's as a leader, I'm not gonna reciprocate your negative energy. If you're negative, I'm not. You're gonna have to go somewhere with that.
So now here's a question. Do you think that if a person has an expectation of something, and the reason why they're not given that that effort, the positive effort, is because their expectation hasn't been met? Do you think that's unrealistic from their perspective?
I don't think it's unrealistic, but what I did personally in our workplace is I put signs all over the warehouse that says no negativity zone. What that means is when you come into my office, you can tell me any problem you want to, but give me 2 solutions.
I'm on board with that, and I'm the same way. Like I hate for people to tell me just about problems.
Give me 2 solutions.
Like if there's a problem, what have you considered to fix it? Because you're a part of the problem.
I got mechanics and electricians. You're the SME. So you've been doing this job X number of years. Give me 2 solutions. But if you don't have the solutions, now let's figure it out. But don't just come in with a negative.
Exactly.
Just a problem. I'm sitting at my computer. I can't help you fix a problem if I don't know what give me the whole thing.
Exactly.
Right? So
how about you?
Man, I'm taking that into my parenting. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm taking that into my parenting because that is a challenge. Because I've created the habit now of asking more questions from conversations that we've had. I now ask more questions. When I talk to my sons and just that idea right there of instead of if this is the problem, what are 2 solutions? Because how I used to do it was, okay, if y'all can't figure it out, I'm cutting it off. That's just it. If you guys cannot figure it out, I'm cutting it off. So if it's PlayStation or if it's who's doing the dishes, who's doing their chores, it doesn't matter what is going on. Listen, I'm gonna make this person do it if y'all can't decide who's supposed to do it. And I like that idea of because now you're requiring a person to think.
exactly.
Versus let me just verbally throw up on you, right? And I gotta clean myself off. Let me provide you the opportunity to vent. But now, as adults, we got to figure this out.
Absolutely.
And now they're doing critical thinking, and they got to think for themselves on how to figure this out. And now we're doing it together.
Exactly.
We're working together as a team instead of you about cooperation, and instead of you thinking that you're in this by yourself and that you're just going through some things that nobody else is going through. You went through it. You got to vent. What's 2 solutions? Okay, those are some great ideas. Which one are we going to choose? Now we got to make a decision versus just focusing on the negative. I like that concept.
You put the onus back on the individual that came in. It automatically swings right back to them. It's just like a revolving door. When you do that, it swings right back to them. And then they feel now responsible. Like now, okay, they got to take some ownership of what's going on. It's not just on me. Because it's easy to blame the leader. The leader's this, the leader's that.
Yeah, it's his fault. He's supervisor.
Easy.
Easy. That's the scapegoat. But when you come in,
But it's lazy.
Yeah, it is lazy. But you come in with a problem, and then you provide the solutions. Now it's back on you. Now we can figure it out together. Right. And then those two solutions may not be the best option.
Exactly. But it gets them thinking though, letting them know that they're a part of the solution. Because that's what it's all about. Like, I would always tell people, hey, provide me a solution. That don't mean that they're going to give me the best solution. That don't mean that's what we're going to do. But the thing is, I want to get your mind to working because that way when I speak and I say that this is the solution, now you know how I generated the solution so that you can generate solutions as well. You see what I'm saying?
So what I hear us saying is this. You want to minimize expectations, but when you paying somebody, you got some reasonable expectations. So we find a place for expectations.
No, I'm not saying I have expectations.
No, what I'm saying, the employer.
Oh, okay.
The employer.
If we're talking about the workplace.
Gotcha.
The workplace.
Yeah.
Remember the subject, the workplace.
Yes, sir.
The employer is paying you money.
Right.
He's providing.
He has expectations.
He has expectations.
Yeah.
So now we know
And standards.
the proper place for expectation in the workplace. So therefore, how do you confront it? The same way you confront everything else. Bring more than people expect. You'll have more than you expect.
Right, but you got standards at work. So we talked about standards earlier.
Yes.
You should not have standards.
You're right.
But at work, you have standards.
You have standards.
You have to.
You have to set guidelines.
You gotta have
procedural
standards.
compliance. You have to have standards.
So
you
work
follow
is an
the
opportunity to be more and get paid. Because if you're not getting more, being more, you ain't gonna get paid, and it's gonna show up in your kitchen table.
Well, no,
your
that's
kids
true,
gonna be saying,
because-
"Dad,
Yeah, that's
Mom,
true. We
why we ain't got food? Because I went to work, I didn't meet the expectations, and
And they told me, see you later.
I was expecting more from them than I was delivering. You
Absolutely.
always deliver more than you expect from others, and you'll get the unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Over exceed expectations.
Exceed
But you
expectations.
see, I know with us, we do, especially as a manager, I do performance evaluations annually. That generates merit increases because we get annual merit increases. So if I give you a negative performance evaluation, you're not getting an annual increase. Period. And we incentivize by do monthly stipends of $500 for employee of the month. So there's monetary incentives to put more food on the table.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, gentlemen, have we covered the area of expectations?
Hey, man, I think we touched on it. I like to say one thing. Hey, for everybody that's listening, if you like the content that we're putting out, I would please ask you to subscribe to our podcast. We're trying to make sure that people enjoy what we say and getting something positive from it. Because we're just here to be a catalyst for improvement in people and love.
Absolutely. On that note, let us increase the Shupidstit, and let us decrease the stupid shit.
Already.
Big fact.
Daily.
Big fact.
Gentlemen, what a pleasure. What a pleasant.
That was a good podcast.
That was pleasant.
That whole